Alright, hello everybody. It is late at night or early in the morning after the real-time finale dropped. I don't even know the name of this eighth episode of Season 1, but I've also had many glasses of port. While I have been watching this, it's the Christmas season. Hey, Merry Christmas Eve to everybody. But I want to go over this episode, and I want to start out saying, unfortunately, this is going to be one of my least favorite episodes of the season. I was actually severely underwhelmed with this episode as a whole. And just sort of, again, overarchingly, I thought this was down at the bottom of my favorite episodes this month, along with episodes 1 and 2. In each of these episodes, 1, 2, and 8, I felt like the writers were trying to cram a whole lot of information into one episode, and they just really, like, every scene was trying to impart some revelation, some thought, some important world building, whatever it is, to what was happening. And it just felt, because of that, so disheveled, so unorganized, and so really all over the map. Where this show shines so far is when it pauses, takes a step back, and allows the audience to sit in things, and allows character beats to take place, for moments to happen, and focusing in on that. I think the best episode was the Siuan and Moiraine episode, or potentially the episode before that, where Lan, we're learning about his, like, warder background and his friend dealing with the loss of that side of things. That's the best this episode, or excuse me, the season gets, in my idea. It is, or in my mind, it is when they're trying to put so much into that, and so much happening, and so many new concepts into one episode to move the story forward, that it really falls apart. And yes, I know that the showrunner and the writers wanted 10 episodes, but at the end of the day, the season we got was 8 episodes. And while I did think there were some high heights, I think this ending really doesn't stray from the book, in the sense of it feels very clunky, haphazard, things are thrown around, and not everything made sense. And at the end of the day, it was very underwhelming, is the word I keep coming back to, which is a bummer. Now, listen, they already have a season 2, and I think they already have a season 3, so this was overall a success, and I think from here they can only get better, and as a whole, I was really happy with this season. However, the ending of this, I think, really did not hit home the way they wanted. So let's kind of go, not real detailed, but sort of a play-by-play through this particular episode. First, the opening sequence, the cold open, so to speak. Interestingly, that they're really going for the, what's the word? Like before the breaking, it was sort of a science fiction, futuristy, like, idea. I know that is definitely what Wheel of Time, like, talks about, but honestly, for me, as a reader of the series, that was never a big deal for me. It's such a small emphasis in the series as a whole that I was never, I don't know, really drawn to that. I know some readers are, and I'm sure they got to see it, and that was very cool, but I think for most people, that's just going to be confusing and like, what? Flying cars? Like, I don't know how much that really adds to the story. I think it just makes it a little more confusing, and again, in an episode that's already chock full of revelations or things happening, I don't think that was necessary. And again, it's just not something that, like, excites me as much. I did like hearing the name Lews Therin and getting, like, the pre-breaking dragon. I thought that was cool, but wasn't, I don't know. The whole, like, science fiction-y element of this just anyway doesn't get to me, and I think it added to a pretty bloated and confusing episode, especially for people who haven't read the books. Just in some, like, positive ways, there were some really cool, brief moments of, I think, really good acting. Particularly Madeline Madden as Egwene, when she says, "I love him," and talking to Perrin. I thought that scene was very heartfelt and really, like, I don't know, it really hit me. And I thought was well written. A scene that was slightly not as well written, I thought a little clunky, was the Your Lioness wizard between Lan and Nynaeve. But because there was so much time devoted to that in the last episode and the last couple of episodes, I bought it. And I thought that was a touching episode, or scene. So that was good. I also thought Rand's like fake dream where he kills himself is like was really like, whoa, what the hell, kind of like shocking visual that I thought was really, really cool and really well done. So all of those elements I thought were cool, just those brief moments. But again, mostly in this episode, I was watching this like this. Like, what? It just felt, everything felt a little off. So I'm just going to go through each of these and kind of go through them. The first thing is like the Moiraine and Rand like walking through the Blight. First of all, I should say I like the set design of the Blight. I think is very, very cool. But like the whole like when you need the power, it will come to you thing. And you know, like when they actually get to the Eye of the World, like her having a knife to him and the like throwing in the Sand and Grell, like mythology again. It just felt like too much was packed into that and didn't really work. There's a lot of character development, both with Moiraine, well, maybe not as much with Rand, but especially with Moiraine, and it just didn't seem like it came to anything in this moment. And there's just the weird thing of like Lan, you know, Moiraine has a tell, and so Nynaeve can tell Lan how to follow her, and he's able to follow her. But how does he get through the gap and all the Trollocs who are now there? It just doesn't like, it doesn't pass the sort of like common sense meter. Even within a fantasy world, you have to fit into like a basic, you know, logic of the world. And it just didn't make sense that Lan was able to follow them. And I think I was supposed to be like really like hurt by her being shielded by the power, but it was just so thrown in. So many other things were happening. It just didn't land. And I don't know how many people understood the seal of the Dark One's throne or like that unbreakable seal thing. I think people are just like, what the hell? There's just so much thrown in this episode, and I'm not even through all of it. The Rand vision thing where he like sees his life as Egwene and his daughter, and like the way that he beats Asmodean or the Dark One or whoever that happens to be, like is recognizing that Egwene wouldn't choose this and that's not the woman he loves. Like it's interesting on paper, but like the whole thing was just really stunted and weird. Like, what did the Dark One, whoever that was, want him to do? Like, it was just like he had the power, but like there's no specific thing of like he's just gonna like remake the world. Like it's so broad and confusing and doesn't make sense. Like, and then what he does to him, like just to like make him disappear with this bright light, like none of that, even as a book reader, is like, what the hell is going on? And then he just like runs away and Moiraine lets him. All of that is just really clunky. I don't know, I just didn't like any of that. Like it was interesting at points, but for the most part is like, what is going on? And then add to that all the weird stuff that's happening at the city. Why are all the channelers outside the walls, like just standing in the open? Like all the stuff they could have done on the walls, and it would have made more sense than just like standing in a field. And there's not enough groundwork for like the idea of burning someone out with the power, and that was a danger. And this random like lady who we met last time is like sucking them dry of the power. And then apparently Nynaeve dies, but doesn't really die because Egwene like brings her back from the dead or heals her or whatever. Like that is weird and doesn't make sense. From the book, like at the very least it should be the other way around, where Nynaeve is able to do it, because Nynaeve like is a wisdom, and so she's really good at like healing, so that's kind of her thing anyway. That just like, that whole thing felt weird. Padan Fain just like walking into the throne room without like having to fight a bunch of people. Like, where are all the warriors? Like, I know a lot of people went to the wall, but like we see a whole bunch of women warriors like getting on the walls and like loading up crossbows, but like none of them are around. And he just kind of walks in and gets the horn. Like that just felt weird. And Perrin, I did like that he picked up the axe, because that's going to be a big part. Like the axe and the hammer is going to be a big part of his character moving forward. But like he just talks to Padan Fain. Padan Fain just walks away, and Perrin's just like, well, all right. It just like everything felt a little off, I'm going to be honest. And that's disappointing for a season that I overall really enjoyed. I'm going to need to sleep on this and just really digest it. I think hopefully in January I'll have a more well thought out like season-long review. But overall, I was pretty disappointed. And then after all of that, the ending is the coming of the people from the West. I'm not going to say much about that because that's a huge part of what's going to happen. Like, in an episode that was already chock full of confusing and weird elements, to throw that at the end, I think is just way too much. So I'm really interested to go and read like how people are responding to this, especially people who haven't read the book, because there's just so much craziness. I thought it did not end well, but the good news is we are going to have a second season and at least a third season. So like, this is not a deal breaker. This is just one episode that didn't jive with me. And again, the end of the first book doesn't jive with me either. And I read the rest of the series. So I think that's okay. And it is kind of how the end of the book is. It was like confusing and weird. And so maybe they did the best with what they could while trying to stay within like basic outlines of the story. We'll see. Great Hunt is one of my favorite books in the whole series, and that they obviously are going to follow most of that because the pieces are in place as far as Rand like separating from everybody and the horn being stolen. So I think that's cool. And we'll see what happens. That's kind of my rambling thoughts, honestly, late at night, slightly tipsy from port after watching this episode. So maybe I'll wake up in the morning and be like, hey, that was great. I don't think so, though. What did you think of the episode? Let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about this episode and the season as a whole, especially if you have not read the books. I really want to know if this was as confusing to you as I thought it would be. Even me as a reader was like confused and weirded out at certain parts. So let's talk in the comments below. As always, first in, last out.